Hey, what's up everyone, this is Michael again, and today I'm gonna show you the ultimate blue loadouts. There's so many skins that I need to cover in this video, so I really hope you guys stay until the very end of this video. Let's get straight into it. We started off with USPS Guardian. This one in the factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around $5. As for the budget options, the USPS Blueprint will cost you somewhere around $27. As for the expensive options, the USPS Royal Blue will cost you somewhere around $50. Cheapest options for the Glock is the High Beam in fact new conditions will cost you somewhere around 10 cents. The Off-Road in factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around 50 cents. Another options for the Glock, the Bunsen burner will cost you somewhere around 90 cents. Budget options for the Glock, you can go with the Blue Fishers in fact new conditions will cost you somewhere around $13. Most expensive options is the Twilight Galaxy, in fact new will cost you somewhere around $170. Moving on to the P2K, the cheapest one you can get is the Oceanic for 20 cents. First budget options, we got the handgun for $3.80. Second budget options, you can go with the Fire Elemental. In the min-wear conditions, it will cost you somewhere around $11. The factory new will cost you twice the price. Top of the list, we got the Ocean Foam. In fact new, it will cost you somewhere around $115. Moving on to the P250. Cheapest options, you can go with the Ripple. In fact new will cost you somewhere around 30 cents. Second cheap options, you can go with the Valance. In fact new will cost you somewhere around 60 cents. There's no budget options, so we go straight to the expensive ones. This one is the Undertow, it costs you somewhere around $50. Next up, we got the 5.7. The cheapest one is the Forest Knight, you can get one at 10 cents. For the budget options, you can go with the Full Play for $6.50. As for the expensive options, you can go with the Berries and Cherries Full Blue Pattern 80. The cheapest listed one on buff will cost you somewhere around $140. Another expensive options, you can go with the Case Hardened. It's really hard to get the estimated price for the tier 1 blue gem, but the cheapest listed one on buff will cost you somewhere around $400. As for the Cheesy Auto, the cheapest one you can get is the Indigo. The factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around $3.70. Another options, you can go with the Hexan. For the factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around $4.80. Next up, we got the Poison Dart. In the factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around $8. Last on the list, we get the Callus. This one will cost you somewhere around $360. The reasons why this one is so expensive, because it's come from the Cobblestones collections, and people using it for the straight ups. Moving up, we got the Tech 9 Ice Cap, which will cost you somewhere around 40 cents in the factory new conditions. As for the Avalanche, these budget options will cost you somewhere around $3. Second budget options, we got the Titanium Bit for around $6.50. As for the expensive options for the Tech 9, you can go with the Decimators. In the minimal wear conditions, you can get it for around $18, because the factory new will cost you somewhere around $33. For the Dual Berettas, the cheapest options you can get is the Cobalt Quartz for 22 cents. Second cheap options, you can go with the Shred for around 30 cents. First budget options for the Dual Berettas, you got the Urban Shock. In the factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around $2.30. Second budget options, you can go with the Anodized Navy for around $7. As for the expensive options for the Dual Berettas, you can go with the Duelist. These ones will cost you around $110. As for the R8, we only have two options. The cheap options is the Grip, you can get one at 20 cents. As for the second options, you can go with the Phoenix Marker for around $2. As for the Deagle, cheapest options is the Blue Ply. You can get one in the factory new conditions for around $1. For $1.50, second cheap options, you can get the Sputnik. The budget options for the Desert Eagle is the Midnight Storm for $23. At the expensive options, for around $68, you can get the Cobalt Disruptions. First SMG, the Mag-10, cheapest options, you can get the Oceanic for around 20 cents. Second cheap options, you can get the Struts for around 50 cents. Another cheap options for the Mag-10, you can get the Lapis Gator for around 70 cents. The only budget options for the Mag-10, this one's the Malachite, will cost you somewhere around $2.50. For around $13, the second budget options, you can get the Indigo. As for the expensive options, you can go with the Case Hardened. The Blue Gem Pattern 667, the cheapest listing on buff, it's currently around $265. Let's move on to the MP9. For the cheapest options, you can go with the goo for around $1. As there's no budget options, we go straight to the expensive options. This stained glass will cost you somewhere around $83. Another expensive options, you can go with the Pandora box for around $110. Cheapest UMP45 you can get is the exposure at the factory new conditions will cost you around $1. Second cheap options, you can go with the scaffold for $2.50. We got another indigo. These budget options will cost you somewhere around $7 in factory new conditions. As for the expensive options, we got the Minotaur Labyrinth. These ones will cost you somewhere around $82, and I know it's kinda debate whether the skins is the blue or the purple skins, but at every site that I know, the base color of the skins is blue, so I put it in here. Moving to the MP7, we got the Cyrus for the cheapest options. These ones will cost you somewhere around 40 cents. Another options for the MP7, for less than 50 cents you can get the Anodized Navy. And for $2.80 you can get the Ocean Foam. Last MP7 on the list, we got the Asterion for around $3.50. P90 Off-Road will cost you somewhere around 35 cents in factory new conditions. As for another cheap options, the P90 Tractions will cost you somewhere around 65 cents. These ones look too good for a cheap skins. As for the first budget options, you can get the module for around $2.50. The budget options, you can go with the Blind Spot, which will cost you somewhere around $10. As for the expensive options, you can go with the Astral Jormungandr, which will cost you somewhere around $250. As for the MP5 SD, the cheapest options is the Liquidations. This one will cost you somewhere around 20 cents, and this one is such an underrated skins. Second cheap options, you can go with the coprocessor. This one will cost you somewhere around 45 cents. As for the budget options, we can go with the Agent for around $3. Last MP5 SD on the list, you got the Phosphor, which you can get for around $7. First PP Bison on the list, we got the Water Sigil for $1.50. Second PP Bison, you can get the Cobalt Halfstones for around $2. Third Bison, we got the Seabird for around $3. And the last one is the Blue Streaks, which you can get for around $5. First shotgun on the list, we go for the XM Blue Spruce. This one will cost you somewhere around 15 cents. Next up, we got the Slipstreams. In effect new conditions will cost you somewhere around 20 cents. And the last XM on the list, you can get the Fari Camo Blue for around $14. As for the Max 7, first option is the Sonar, which you can get for around 20 cents. Second option, you can get the Navi Sheen for around 30 cents. Third cheap options, you can get the Cobalt Cord for around 40 cents. As for the first budget options, you can go with the Heartwater, which will cost somewhere around $3.50. Last Max 7 on the list is the Seabird, which will cost you somewhere around $4 in the factory new conditions. The only sawed-off you can choose is the Serenity, and thankfully it's not a bad skin. You can get this one for $2.30. We only have two options for the Nova. First one is the Windblown, which will cost you somewhere around 30 cents. Second option is the Tempest. In factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around $11. As for the Negav, the cheapest options is the Man O' War. This one is float cap, so we can only get the minimal wear for around 10 cents. Still a minimal wear float cap skins. Second option is the Dazzle, which will cost you somewhere around 25 cents. As for the expensive options, you can get the Anodized Navy for around $350. As for the M249, first one is the Downtown, which will cost you somewhere around $1.30. Second and the last option for the M249, you get the Shipping Forecast, which will cost you for somewhere around $14. The first M41S in the list will be the Brightwater, which is another minimal wear flat cap skins, and this one will cost you for $22. Second on the list, we got the Guardian, which will cost you for somewhere around $24 in the factory new conditions. Next up, we got the Decimator. In the factory new conditions will cost you for somewhere around $30. As for the Nightmare, it will cost you for somewhere around $33. As for the factory new conditions, the control panel will cost you for somewhere around $48. As for the first expensive options, you can get the Hyper Beast for around $115. However, the minimal wear will only cost you for less than $40. Second expensive option on the list, you got the Masterpiece, which will cost you for somewhere around $360. Another expensive options, the Icarus Veil will cost you for somewhere around $400. As for the last M4A1S on the list, the Blue Phosphor in the factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around $550. And now we move into the M4A4. First one on the list is the Spider Lily, which will cost you somewhere around $14 in the factory new conditions. Second option, you can get the Desolated Space in the factory new conditions for $18. Third up, we got the Dragon King at $25 on the factory new conditions. Moving to the expensive options, we got the Emperor, which will cost you $114 in factory new conditions. However, in the minimal wear, it will only cost you for $40. One of my favorite skins in the game, the Tomukau, which you can get for $117 in the factory new conditions. The most expensive on the list is the Poseidon, which will cost you for around $1,000. On the T sides, the Galil cheapest options is the Cold Fusions, which you can get for 20 cents. Other budget options is the Stone Cold, which will cost you for somewhere around $5. The Galil Rocket Pop will cost you somewhere around $6 in the factory new conditions. The last Galil on the list will be Aqua T-Race, which will cost you somewhere around $95. The first and the cheapest options is the Blue Laminate, which you can get for $12 in the factory new conditions. Second cheap options is the Ice Cold. This is one of my favorite cheap skins in the game because it looks really cool. For a mid-range budget options, you can go with the Frontside Misty in the factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around $50. As for the high budget options, you can go with the Vulcan. In the factory new conditions, it will cost you somewhere around $660, but if you want to save some money, you can go with the minimal wear, which will only cost you for about $400. And if you want to go crazy with your AK, you can always go with the Blue Gem Case Harden. The lowest listed tier 1 pattern that I can find is somewhere around $2,800. But if you want to go with the 661, which is the number 1 pattern for the AK Case Harden, the lowest listed that I can find is somewhere around $200,000. Okay, now we're going to the FAMAS. The first and cheapest options will be the Cyanus pattern. In the factory new conditions, it will cost you somewhere around 70 cents. As for the budget options, you can go with the After Image. In the minimal wear conditions, it will cost you for around $25. In the factory new conditions, it will cost you double, which is $50. You can go with the Water of Naphtys. In the factory new conditions, it will cost you for somewhere around $95. And now we move into the AUG. For the first options, you can go with the Ricochet. In the factory new conditions, it will cost you somewhere around 60 cents. Another cheap options, you can go with the Aristocrat. In the factory new conditions, will cost you somewhere around $1.50. As for the mid-range budget options, you can go with the Momentum. It will cost you for around $16. Another mid-range budget options, you can go with the Anodized Navy. In the factory new conditions, will cost you somewhere around $30. As for the expensive options, there's no other choice but to choose the Akihabara Accept. This is one of my favorite skins in the game, but it will cost you for around $4,000. And now we move into the SG553. Another Anodized Navy skins, these ones will cost you for around 50 cents. For the mid-range budget options, you can go with the Wave Spray. In the factory new conditions will cost you somewhere around $12. First sniper in the video, the SSG. The mainframe 001 will cost you somewhere around 30 cents in the factory new conditions. Another cheap options for the Scouts, Handbrake will cost you for around 90 cents in the factory new conditions. For mid-budget options, you can go with the Abyss. This one will cost you for around $2. Top of the list is the Tropical Storm. In the factory new conditions will cost you for around $40. And now we move on to the AWP. There's so many options for the AWP, but first one and the cheapest options, you can go with the Atheris. In the factory new conditions will cost you for around $10. Another options, you can go with Sun in Leo. It will cost you for around $23. Yet another minimal wear Slot Cap skin. The Man of War will cost you for around $26. As for the Cortisera, it will cost you for around $30 in the factory new conditions. The low mid-budget options, you can go with the Hyper Beast. In the factory new will cost you for around $80. As for the high mid-budget options, you can go with the Silk Tiger. It will cost you for around $215. And now we're stepping up the game. The first expensive options for the AWP is the Medusa. This one in the minimal wear conditions will cost you for around $2,500. In the factory new, it will cost you twice the price at around $5,100. And now for the top of the AWP list, we got the AWP Gungnir or Gungnir or whatever. This skin is really cool. If not top 3, then top 5. This one in the factory new conditions, the lowest listing will be around $10,600. This one looks so amazing. Now we move into the Scar 20. This one is the blueprint. These cheap options will cost you for around 30 cents in the factory new conditions. As for the mid-budget options for the Scar 20, you can go with the Storm, which will cost you for $6. Expensive options for the Scar 20, you can go with the Cardiac in the factory new conditions will cost you for around $11. Now for the cheapest options for the G3 SG1, the Azure Zebra in the factory new conditions will cost you for around $1.5. For the mid-budget options, you can go with the Demeter in the factory new conditions will cost you for around $12. For the expensive options, you can go with the Chronos in the factory new conditions will cost you for around $205. And now we finally move into the gloves. There's so many options for the blue gloves. First cheap options, we got the Moto Gloves Polygon. In the field tested conditions, this one will cost you for around $160. Another cheap options, you can go with the hand wrapped overprint. In the field tested conditions, this one will cost you for around $195. And now we move into the mid-range budget options. First up, we got the Moto Gloves Cool Mint. In the field tested conditions, this one will cost you for around $320. Second options, you can go with the hand wraps Cobalt Skulls. In the field tested conditions, this one will cost you for around $360. As for the highest mid-budget options, you can go with the Sport Gloves Amphibious. In the field tested conditions, this will cost you for around $615. These gloves will fit really well with the bright water skins. And now we're moving to the expensive options for the gloves. For the Blue Gems lovers, we got the Hydro Gloves Case Hardened. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the best blue gem pattern will be the 310. The lowest listed one that I can find for the 310 pattern will cost you for around $1,500. And for the last gloves on the list, we got the Superconductor in the field tested conditions. This one will cost you for around $1,700. And now we move on to knives. For a cheap blue knife, you can always go with Brightwater. And in my opinion, the best cheap Brightwater in the game will be the Shadow Daggers. In the field tested conditions, this one will cost you for around $70. As for another cheap options, you can go with the Stiletto Knives Blue Steel. In the field tested conditions, this one will cost you for around $230. Now for the mid-budget options, you can go with the Bowie Knife Doppler. In the factory new conditions, this one will cost you for around $330. As for the high mid-budget options, you can go with the Talon Knife Doppler. In the factory new conditions, this one will cost you for around $880. This is the top of the list, the Karambit Case Hardened Blue Gems. In the minimal wear, the lowest listed blue gem that I can find will cost you for around $23,500. And that's it. That's a really long list and I hope you guys make it until the end of this video. If there's any skin that I missed in this video, please let me know in the comment section down below and please tell me what's your favorite skins on these videos. And of course, I really appreciate if you guys leave a like and a comment on this video. I'm Michael, I'm out.